Learn JavaScript with AI. And in this case, we are going to be using Visual Studio Code as our platform. So let's set up our learning environment. In this case, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, but I'll also show you how you can use any of the other AI chat models. Now, for you to use Visual Studio Code, of course, you have to have Visual Studio Code installed. So please do go ahead and install that. Just type in Visual Studio Code into Google and you'll get a link to download it. Visual Studio Code is free software made by Microsoft. It works on both Macs and PCs. If you've already got it, then you can skip this step. Also, you need to open up a GitHub account. Again, just type in github.com. You get to the GitHub account, open it up. It's absolutely free. And that will give you access to the GitHub Copilot, which is a whole array of free AI models that will work within your Visual Studio Code. Then you will need to load some Visual Studio Code extensions. The essential ones are the GitHub Copilot. Now, once you open up your Visual Studio Code, it would prompt you to install that anyway. To install a extension, you simply click on this little icon here where you've got extensions and do a search for it, GitHub Copilot. And you can install that. GitHub Copilot, GitHub Chat, they normally install together. And then there's another one called Teach, Techer. That's to help you open up your browser to look at the examples that you would have created. So that's the setup. Now, if you want to use one of the AI models, that is the online chats, you can either use ChatGPT, it's very good, or Google Gemini, or Claude AI. Again, you can get a free account of any of these, although it might be a bit limited. They only give you a certain number of prompts with a free account, but it could still do quite a lot. So open up any of these free accounts, and then when you want to start this lesson, you will start a new chat. I'll mention a little bit more about that later on. You need to have this file structure set up. Now, here is my folder. So create a folder anywhere on your desktop and then go File. So let me just show you here. Here's my folder. That is my folder. That's the name of my folder. And these are all the folders within the folder that I have created. And you can create these inside Visual Studio Code. So what I'll say is that first of all, create one folder. I've called mine Learn JavaScript with AI. And then come into Visual Studio Code and simply go File, Open Folder, and open that folder from wherever it is on your desktop. When you open it for the first time, there won't be anything there. Then you can simply create a new folder in here. To create a folder, you just click on that icon there where it says New Folder. Click on that. And the first folder you should create is a full stop GitHub.github. That's where you're going to have your Copilot instructions MD. Okay. Then you have an images folder. That's optional. You don't need an images folder, but it would help later on in the exercises. Then you have a My PRDs folder, and that is where I've got all my prompts. And all my prompts are saved as XML files. Now that's fine. If you don't know anything about XML files, don't worry. They're very simple, and you can get a copy of all these files in the description. I've used XML because it works across all the platforms, all the AI models, and also within Visual Studio Code. I will mention at this time that I am aware that you can also have Visual Studio prompts, but they're still experimental at the moment, so I don't want to go down that route in case they don't use them anymore. Okay, then have a work area folder, and then you've got the agents.md, which is basically the same as your Copilot instructions.md. And you're going to see copies of all these files in the description. All right, so once you've done that, we're now ready to go ahead with our setup. First, we want to set what is known as the context prompt. This gives the AI model a context of what it's going to be doing. So this is very, very important. And notice, so this copilot-instructions.md goes inside your .github folder. So that's where it should be located. You can see mine is there already. That's my GitHub folder. And there is my copilot-instructions.md. All right. So, and again, you can see a copy of this in the description, but I've also put a copy here so you can take a look at it. And I can pause this video at this point and read through it. It's simply telling the AI model that it's going to act as a senior programmer, experience in teaching JavaScript and related technologies, and it tells it how to go about things. Very important down here is also telling it that all the examples should be saved inside the work area folder. So that's why it's important that you create that folder. Okay, so this, you copy this, you save it as a .md file. So it's going to be Copilot's instructions.md, and that is saved inside your .github folder. Now, one of the important things about learning a language with an AI model is, one, you need to know how to write good prompts, and two, you need to know what to ask it. So it would be ideal if we had some course outline that we could follow. Now, if you're learning JavaScript on your own, even if you went to any of the AI online models, a lot of them now have learning modes, and they can tell you that they can teach you this one language or another. The problem is that they can take you down a rabbit hole, because they'll give you some examples, and when you look at it, they'll say, oh, did you explain like that? Or should I show you this now? Or should I show you that? And you're basically saying yes, and you're going down a rabbit hole because there's no clean path in which it's taking you through. Now, that's not the fault of the AI model, because it doesn't know what you've understood, what you haven't understood, or what level you're at. So that's part of the advantage of this approach. I have given you a nice course outline that you are going to be following. Now, you can also get a copy of this from my website. If you make your way to that website, you will be able to get a copy of this course outline. And I'm going to show you exactly how it works with the prompts. It's been designed in such a way that it will help you to construct your prompts in a neat way. So let's take a look. We are going to run the first prompt, which is PID1 explain.xml. Now, I'm going to go into my folder here, and I'm going to go into my PIDs, and here's my first prompt, PID1 explain. And here is, now let me make some more space here. Now here's an XML file. Don't worry if you don't know about XML files. The search engines on this, the AI models understand it very well, so they won't have a problem with it. Now, the only parts of this that you need to change are these parts up here. So notice here, there is always the first parts followed by a colon and the second part. Very important, because what my prompt is saying is that in the context of this, the first part, explain that. Very important that you give the AI model clear instructions. And if you look at our course outline, you notice how I've written them. So here I've got introduction to JavaScript. That would be just before your colon. Immediately after the colon, it will be colon, what is ES? Colon, JavaScript in the browser, and so on. So for this first part, these are just explaining some of the essential concepts of JavaScript. So there's going to be no code examples here, just explaining them. If you already know these, then you can go straight on to lesson 2. So here we are. Notice how I've done it. Introduction to JavaScript, that is taken directly from the main heading. And then what is ES6? That goes after the colon. Now, I've limited the word limit to 50 because if you don't, the AI models could give you up to 2 pages back on just one concept, and that's, of course, overwhelming. If when you get back 50 words, you still don't understand it, you could increase that. You could say, okay, make it 100 words, so then it will explain it a bit more. Otherwise, please take a read through these, and you see what it's saying, telling it what it's acting as, and asking it how to go about what it's going to give to you. And it makes it very clear. Notice on my line 10 here, explain the topic clearly, starting with the main category that is before the colon, then focus on the specific content after the colon. So that's why these colon approaches are very, very important. And the rest there, you can see it talks about making it in brevity. Now, when it gives you the feedback, notice on my line 19, it says, since there is no code here, you should output your response in Markdown format in a Markdown file. And that's going to go into your work area folder because that's already been put in our Copilot instructions. So this instruction will be combined with what you've got in the Copilot instruction to give you the final feedback. So let's take a run of this so you can see as an example. Now, make sure you've got the latest version of Visual Studio Code. And to do that, see these 3 dots up here. If I click on that and you go down to Help and About. And the latest version at the moment is 1.05.0. Okay. Now, if you don't have that, simply click on here and then go help again and just click for check for updates. And if there are any updates, it will tell you and download them. If not, it normally updates itself automatically anyway, but it's always good to check, especially if you've already had Visual Studio Code installed and you haven't used it for a long time. If you've just installed it, then you'd have the latest version. So let's do a run on this. Running this in Visual Studio Code. See that little icon up there? That's how you open up your AI agents. Now, I say AI agents. When you open up this for the first time, make sure you click on this little icon down here and notice you've got 3 modes: agent mode, ask mode, and edit mode. We want to use agent mode because agent mode is that which can work autonomously. It can go off and do work. It can go and prepare you things. You could use the ask mode for these ones, but I would prefer agent mode. I've already told it it's not going to write any code, so you should be all right with agent mode. I get much more comprehensive feedback with agent mode in this particular case. Now, so make sure you select agent mode, and then on the next tab here, you're going to select the AI model you want to use. Now, if you've got the free version, you may not have all these different models that I've got down here. You may only have the ones that are up here, which in this case is sufficient. And GPT-5 Mini is very good, and GPT 4.1 also is very good. One of the best for coding is Claude Sonnet 4.5 or Gemini 2.5 Pro. So any of these ones that you choose at this moment would be sufficient. I'm going to go for Claude Sonnet 4.5, but you can choose any other one, okay? And then notice the prompt here. Run the instructions in the PID1 explain.xml. Now that's the open file, and the open file should be showing there anyway. But I just want to put that to make it absolutely clear so you two can follow along. And now I run. And there we are. And now it goes off. Now that's very good. Notice there it says 2 references, which is important. So it is the 2 references means that it is looking at this open file. And the other one it will be looking at would be the Copilot instructions. And now it will tell you exactly what it's doing. The topic is Introduction to JavaScript. What is ES6? Let me just come back up here. And I need to create a Markdown file with an explanation of 50 words without any code examples. Brilliant. So it's already created that file. Notice it's intro to ES6 explanation.md. Now, please do read what it gives you here. It gives you some nice feedback here. But if I now come back into my files, let me just close this to give you more space. Oh, very important. Make sure you click keep. When it creates a file, it asks you if you want to keep it. Please click keep. So keep. I've kept that. Now I'm going to close this down. Now I'm going to come back to my files. Here is my work area. And if I open up my work area, there's the file that it has just created. And I'm going to open that. And here we are. Introduction to JavaScript. What is ES6? What is JavaScript? Gives you a nice, neat introduction. What is ES6? Gives you a nice, neat introduction. ES6 is important. The reason why I put it there is because there were major changes that were introduced with ES6. So if you are learning JavaScript and you're not learning it from ES6 and above, you're learning old code. Now, this is one of the problems you have if you don't have a structure when you go and learn JavaScript. If you just go to an AI and say, teach me JavaScript, you don't know what version it's teaching you. So in a sense, you are being handheld as you are going through this tutorial because I've written out the prompts and the syllabus for you. And there you have it. Let me just do one more example in this. So I'm now going to go back into my notes. So that's the file that is made to us. I'm going to go back into my README file because that's where my notes were. Here, my notes in the README file. Here it is. Now, if you wondered why it was looking so nice and neat the other times, because I had gone into preview mode. So when I come into preview mode, this is a Markdown file, by the way. Markdown files can be looked at either in their raw code or in the preview, which makes them look like HTML files. Let me just close this one down. So I'm now looking at my Markdown file in the preview mode. That's why it's nice and neat. If I look at it in the ordinary mode, you see the code. Okay, so here we are. Those are the file structures. I've already gone over those. Those are the Copilot instructions. We've already done that. And we've done the first PID1.explain. Now for the PID1.explain, run that over every item in the first lesson. Okay, and I've already done that. Now when you come to lesson 2, variables and data types, you are now going to use the PID2 because here it's now going to give you code and code examples and use exactly the same approach. So you'd have variables and data types, okay? And then after colon, declaring variables. And it will explain that to you. When you get down to the next subsection, before the colon, it will be declaring variables, colon, let. So I'm just going to take that one example for you. Then you'll be able to work through the others. So declaring variables. I'm going to copy that. And now I am going to open up my PID2. Okay, so inside here, this is where I put the topic. So notice here, I am going to put inside there, declaring variables, and then a colon. And after that, I'm going to put let. I don't want all three now. I just want one. Now, if that ever comes up, just hit the escape key because that is my AI module trying to help me. Okay, so this is my PID2.code.xml. And notice here, it is saying it's a JavaScript tutor prompt, concept explanation with code examples. Again, I'm limiting the words back to 50. If that's not enough, you can increase it. You can read through these. Let me turn on word wrap so all of this comes up. Word wrap. So now you can see all the code there. Let me just save this and minimize this. Now here we've got our XML file. Very easy to follow. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. Please do read through this. One of the things you will notice here is that under my instructions, I'm asking it this time to save the response as an HTML file, because when you save it as an HTML file, you'll be able to run it in your browser. So let's see what this is going to give us. Again, to run it, I go to my chat, and inside here now I'm going to make a new chat here. Just click the plus button, and now here I am going to ask it to run PID2 underscore code dot XML. And that should be sufficient because all the information it needs to be able to run it is up there. And let's run. There we are. I hope you run that. It's going to read through it. It's got the two files. Now it understands. It's going to use the topic declaring variables and with the emphasis on let, and it's going to create the file again for us in the work area folder. Very nice and easy. Now see there it says keep, so it's asking you do you want to keep the file. As again, now it's giving you the name of the file that it has created. Always make sure you click on keep. There we are. And let's just close that bit down now. Let's come back into our folders, and inside my work area, there is the file that I just made, variables let.html. Click on that. There it is. I'm going to minimize you. So here we are. Let's variables are containers. It tells you what they are, and it's giving you some examples. Now notice here, it is telling you that this is going to be brought out in the console log. Now, in my introduction course, one of the questions there to explain was, what is the JavaScript console log? So if you had run lesson 1, you will understand what the console log is and where you can see the result of the console log. The console log is in the browser, and that even tells you here, open your browser's console log, F12, to see the results. There are other ways that you can open the browser's console log. Now, remember one of the extensions that I asked you to install was the TECHER. And that is what helps you to preview a page in the browser. So if I were to right click on this now, and I went, I just simply right clicked on the page, and as I scroll down, I say open in default browser. And now I have opened this in my default browser. And here I am in the default browser, and you can see the HTML code of the page. And if I now want to go to the console log, I'm simply going to right click, and I go to inspect, and that takes me to the dev tools. And so inside the dev tools here, you can see console log, and there you can see what is being sent to the console log. So where we had the initial age 25, updated age 26, inside block 2, outside block 1. Now, you need to look at that in context with the code to understand what it's doing. But what I'm showing you here is how you can see the console log. Now, I'm going to come back out of the console log. So I'm just going to close that down there. Now I've come back out of the console log. And now I want to go back into Visual Studio Code. So here we are in Visual Studio Code, and you can see where it says initial age. So that text is being sent to the console log, and that age there, which represents 25, we saw that 25 there. And then again, we've now changed the value of 25 to 26, which is why in the next one we saw 26. And so that's how you look at the console log. And that's how you run your second prompt. So you run that prompt on each of the examples that you have got. And after you do that, now, can I just to round this up, let me go back to our README file. Right, brilliant. So when you run your prompt, you can ask follow-up questions. So here I am here, still under the learning, we've just run the PRD2. You can ask follow-up questions. You can ask it, can you explain that again in a different way if you don't understand? If you don't understand variable scope, ask it to explain that for you again. And then after you've done that, go on to the next prompt, which is PRD3 assignment, and ask it for an assignment. Now again, all of these are in your description. There you can see it there. Simply put in as normal your title inside the topic, and then ask it. So that would be exactly the same as the first one, as the one that you've just done, and then it will give you an assignment. And after you've done the assignment, there's another one for answers. You can simply put in your same topic there again and ask it for the answers. So work through this step by step, going right through the whole tree structure. Here's my tree structure again. So you're going to work all the way through this. Now, if you want to run this in online chats, running it in the chat module, you would start a new chat in any of the chats, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, start a new chat. And then the first thing you would paste in there would be the agents.md, which is exactly the same as the Copilot, slightly just rewritten in a slightly different way. Paste in the agents.md, and I think there I've added a question. So once you run that prompt, it will say, yes, I'm set up, ready to go. Then you will do exactly what we have been doing. So you would go again into your first prompt, which is this one. You put that in exactly as it is, copy all of this, paste it into the next prompt within that same chat. Make sure you use one whole chat as you go all the way through, and it will start to give you the answers. So you'd have to work your way through in that approach. Another few things to know about when using the chats. You think of each chat as a classroom. When the whiteboard gets full, you have to start again. So with example, with things like ChatGPT, if you're using the online chat now, you don't have this problem in Visual Studio Code. If you're using the online chat, there is usually a limit of how much it can remember. This is usually around 120,000 tokens, roughly about 100 to 150 pages of text. So that's quite a lot. But you start to know when it's getting too big, because it will start to forget some of the things that you've told it earlier. And when that happens, it might be better to now start a whole new chat, paste in the agent mode again, and then start working your questions going down from there. So please, this is something that has to be a hands-on. That's why we call it interactive. So go and set up your work environment and start with the first one, Introduction to JavaScript. What is ES6? Hope you've enjoyed this. Please like and subscribe if you have, and we'll paste you another lesson soon. Thank you.